Great. Yate Anatsko. Welcome to the Native CDFI Network's Friday call. My name is Jackson Brossi, and it's my pleasure to serve as the Executive Director for the Native CDFI Network. Our network is the only trade association of Native community development financial institutions in the country, doing all great people doing great work across 27 different states. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for joining us this Friday. We this is our 36th meeting since COVID, and we've been fortunate to have several great guests along the way, and this week is no different. We will be joined by our friends from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development, and we have asked them to share a bit of an overview about some of their home ownership and home repair programs, specifically as they relate to our Native CDFIs. And our goal is that this information, this overview is helpful for you. And in the long run, we'd like to do a deeper dive on areas that are most relevant and most interesting to our Native CDFIs. And with that, I want to introduce our good friend, Ted Bulow. And Ted is no stranger to Native CDFIs, he's no stranger to the Native CDFI Network. He based out of Colorado, and prior to working with the USDA, he worked with the Treasury Department, and now he serves as the National Native American Coordinator. So Ted, can I hand it over to you, and then hand it over to Andrea?
Yeah, thank you, Jackson, and thanks everybody for joining. Nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces and names on the Zoom list of attendees. So thanks for taking some time out of your day. We have some senior leadership from our single family housing program that are on the line as well, Jackson. So I'd like to have them introduce themselves because they want to listen as well and want to build those relationships and have built relationships throughout Indian country through their own work. So if I could have Kathy Glover come off mute, and Kathy, maybe you can introduce your staff. I know some folks on the line also know you from your work. So thanks, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. Thank you, Jackson. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for hosting this call and letting us explain our programs to you today. I'm Kathy Glover. I'm the Deputy Administrator for our single family housing programs. I've been with the agency for a little over 30 years, in the national office for about the past 16 years. Lending and Native American communities is important to me and important to USDA. So I'm just happy to be a part of the call today, just to listen and so that I can hear your feedback while Ted and Andrea do the real work. So thanks for having us. I do believe we may have on the phone today Chastity Gaston. She's the Assistant Deputy Administrator for our single family housing programs, and Brooke Bauman. Brooke leads up our single family housing direct loan program. And I do believe they're on the call today. So I'm going to go back on mute, turn off my camera, and I'll turn it back over to Ted. But thanks for having me.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you, Kathy and team. We also have two other folks that have been, one of which has been on previous calls. Don Irby is on the tribal relations team with me. He's out of Prescott Valley, Arizona. And then we also had a Pathways intern that started with us on February 1st. So Macy Rouse, you'll see her name. She's new to the government and new to rural development, and currently working on her Master's of Public Administration at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. So I want to introduce her to the group, and she'll be on our team for the foreseeable future as well.
The FinPac one? I'm printing it for you right now.
So with that, I think, Andrea, if you can share your screen. I think some of you have met Andrea in the past. She's going to lead us through the slides, and I'm going to support her whenever she calls on me to add context and answer questions as they arise. So the floor is yours, Andrea.
Thanks so much, Ted, and thanks Jackson and the Native CDFI group for having us on today. I'm getting a little bit of feedback from somewhere. So if everyone can make sure you're on mute, then that'd be great for everyone else to hear the great information I hope to share with you today. So as it's been said, my name is Andrea Hively. Right now I'm the acting branch chief for special programs and initiatives, but I've been with the agency for 15 years. And in those 15 years, I've had the distinct honor and privilege of working in Indian country and with our tribal partners. In Washington State, where I'm based and have worked for those 15 years, we have some 32, 35 recognized tribes. And I had the great honor of working with quite a few of them over the years. We had a that team in Washington State, and that was the Tribal Housing Assistance Tech Team. And so we got together with not only the tribes, but with all the programs that rural development has to offer. And some of you may be familiar that we not only have housing, but single family housing, but we have multifamily housing programs. We have community facility programs, wastewater programs, we have business programs. And so we really are the one-stop shop for all rural communities. And most of the tribes are qualified for the majority of our programs. We are a rural program, obviously rural development. And so we do have population limits in some of our programs. But if you want more information about any of our programs, I would love to hook you up with our local offices and our state offices. And so towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to hop over to our www.rd.usda.gov and show you how to navigate that site a bit so you can find the people that really know the on the ground stuff and can work with you. So with that, let me get started here. Push the right button. So today I want to talk a little bit about the overview of our fiscal year 2021 funding, the outlook, how much we have to offer all of you on the ground to offer to your tribal members. I'm going to talk about the Guaranteed Home Loan Program. It's our largest funded program with $24 billion. And so everybody should have a hand in that pie for sure. I'm going to talk about my favorite flagship program, the 502 Direct program. It's a subsidized home loan program. And so I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like and how it can really serve those low and very low income folks that may not have an opportunity at a house without it. And hopefully what will be interesting to a lot of you lenders is the packaging process that we have. There's money to be made there for those that can package loans to us in the direct loan program. And so I'm hopeful that some of you will pursue the packaging route after you hear about it today and the opportunities that it provides not only to you as lenders, but also to the folks that we serve on the ground. I'm going to talk about our 504 Repair Loan and Grant Program. It's such a great program, and nothing feels better than to be able to offer, you know, in my world, my grandma, a $7,500 grant to repair their roof when they really need it, or their water tank, or whatever the need is on the ground. And the loan program is it's such a great program too. So I can't wait to get to that slide, but let me not get ahead of myself. One of my main programs that I've worked over the years is self-help housing. These are grants made to organizations to build homes on the ground. They get groups of families together to do that. And it's a really wonderful program. And we have some tribal grant recipients in that program too that we'll talk about when we get to that slide. A somewhat underutilized program, our site loan program, is one that I really want to start boosting up and talking to folks about, because you can use this money to develop the sites to make affordable homes, and you can't really build the homes without the site. So it's a great starting point, especially if you're just getting into housing in your areas. Maybe you've set some infrastructure up and you've got your wastewater and electricity ran, but you need more site development. That site loan program is really great for that. Going to talk about the housing preservation grants. I love this program because it's grants to low income folks and not just very low. And these grants are made to organizations to give back to the repairs to the home. So it's kind of a pass-through thing where you're in control of the money. And so I hope some of you will take interest in that program as well. And then we'll end with a good old Q&A. But please, if you have questions as we're going on, let's talk about it as it comes up. You can stop me or put a comment in the chat, and Ted or Jackson will stop me and we can talk about it then. And with that, I'll move to the funding. Unless, Ted, did you have anything else you wanted to add at this point?
No, I'll just add some context to the pictures after you do the bullet.
You have the best pictures, and we all know the pictures make the presentation, right? So, so as I said, our guaranteed loan program is our largest funded program with $24 billion. Our direct loan program is coming in second there at $1 billion. And we tend to spend that every year, but we would love more of it to be spent in our Indian country. So our repair grants, $33.6 million. In some years, we have had limited grant funding, but that's not going to be the case this year. So get in there, get that grant money. Let's not let it go to waste. Our home repair loans have $28 million, and we've consistently had funding available year round in that, although with all these programs, they are, fiscally funded. So there may be some delays at the beginning of a fiscal year to have funding. And I said all those programs, but here I come to the next self-help housing, and that is actually a rollover funding, $31 million. And we do have just under 100 grantees nationwide, but we have been funding new ones every single year. So if you've heard in the past, oh, there's no way to get into the self-help program, that is not the case anymore, not under our new great leadership. So site loans, 10 million, 5 million is specifically designated for those who want to build self-help housing in the future, but the other 5 million is for any site loan. And there's a lot more room than people think with the site loan as far as what you can do with it and who you sell those lots to afterwards. So definitely potential there. And then that housing preservation grant program, it's technically under our multifamily housing umbrella right now, but we want to market it just as much because it goes to single family housing residents, even more so than any multifamily housing programs. And so about 15.9 million there. And there was a little over $1 million left on the table last year. So I presume some of you will come in and get that this year. We won't leave any on the table. Oh, picture. Ted, tell us about these guys.
Well, folks will recognize the faces, at least two of them. In the middle, you have Elsie Meeks, who was at that point our state director for rural development in South Dakota. And to her left, our right's Tawny Brunch, of course. And so you have intergenerational Native CDFI leaders in both Elsie and Tawny. Elsie started at Lakota Funds, as many of you know, and the link with USDA. I think this picture, and Joanna maybe remembers, I think this was the inaugural site visit that the South Dakota Native Homeownership Coalition did as they were touring tribal housing. I think it was from that initial tour. I wasn't there, but that's that picture. It was taken by Christine Sorensen. So we owe Christine some royalties as well as Tawny with all the money we're making from today's presentation.
Hashtag photo cred, right? Cred, as that we say online. Can't keep up with the kids lingo. All right, so let's talk about the Guaranteed Home Loan Program. So this program places a guarantee on your loan, on a conventional lender loan. And as you see on the slide, that's up to a 90% guarantee. So you really have nothing to lose by becoming a guaranteed lender because we loan up to 100% of the value of the home. There's no down payment requirement and there's no maximum purchase price. So if they qualify for it, then they got it. And, we do have what the conventional lender might call an overlay. We do have, specific requirements on what the loan packages need to look like for approval. But I found historically, our overlays are not as stringent as your overlays or say the investor market overlay. So it's not that much extra work and it gives you another tool in your tool belt to offer more loan products to the population that you serve. And why not have more tools in the tool belt? So 30-year fixed loan, that's what we're normally seeing in the market. This program actually goes up to moderate income, and those income limits are banded. And so when I navigate over to our eligibility site and our rural development site, I'll kind of show you how to find out what those income limits are for your area. Maybe you'll just print them off and put them next to your desk and they'll be good to go, knowing which programs your applicants might qualify for and what program would really be the best fit for them. So becoming a guaranteed lender is not that challenging, and I'd be happy to hook you up with our guaranteed division and to get those certifications and get you as a guaranteed lender so that you have an opportunity to get that 24 billion. And we've made some really great changes in the guaranteed program as far as staffing goes, and they are keeping up. They are getting these things back to you quickly, and they are going to spend that $24 billion. So really, really impressed with the guaranteed division and everything they've been able to do. And I want you all to have an opportunity to get a piece of that pie as well. Any questions? Or Ted, did you want to talk about our picture?
Well, there's no story to this picture. It's cheap stock footage, just high resolution, so it matched the colors nicely. But this is one of the things I'd like to work with the Native CDFI network on in the coming weeks, months, and years if it takes. We do not have an approved Native CDFI that's not a commercial lender. We call them non-regulated lenders in the program, and there is a process to become a non-regulated lender. So whether if it's meeting with Kathy and her staff at a later date, or whether it's interest and you want to know exactly what the process is, we can help explain that. And it would be wonderful to get a CDFI or two to be interested, to try to go through that process and to become an approved lender. It doesn't happen overnight. And to date, I'm not aware of it ever happening. So I want to do what I can to not only grease those wheels, but put some shoulder behind it to get someone across the line in a good way. So thanks, Andrea.
Thanks, Ted. And I want to echo that. We at Native CDFI Network want to make sure that Native CDFIs are utilizing the programs that are available, and particularly making sure that Native CDFIs are approved lenders is one of our priorities. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jackson.
Mhm.
All right, so let's move on over to our direct home loan program, our subsidized home loan program. Now, we are the lender in this program. We lend directly to the home buyer, but we will talk about the packaging process, which is where you can get into the game a bit in some of the upcoming slides. Now, the benefit to this program is we do subsidize the interest rate as low as 1%. Now, granted, with interest rates so low in this day and age, some people might think, well, that's only 1% or 2%, but it really can be the difference between an affordable payment for an owner and something that's just stretching them a little bit too far on their ratios month to month in the conventional market. So the subsidy, the payback terms are longer as well. We can go 33 or up to 38 years in some cases, depending on the income level. And so that really allows for even more affordability. Again, here we have no down payment requirement, and we can loan up to 100% value of the home. So this program is only for low and very low income applicants. However, those income limits were banded in recent years. So it's allowed us to help a lot more people and get a lot more people into the program that really are low and very low income when you look at the comparison to minimum wage in these areas. We do want to make sure the property is safe and sanitary and going to last these folks. We were dealing with low and very low income applicants. And so while we do have repair loan programs, we don't want to put someone into a house that needs a repair right away. So we do look for an inspection. And I've already talked about the rural eligible areas, and I will show those maps at the end. But most all of our tribal partner, Indian country and rural area, or most Native American communities are eligible rural communities. Excuse me, I stumbled right over all that rural talk, didn't I? Ted, did you want to talk about the picture at all? I want to talk about packaging, but I don't want to move too fast.
I do. So this picture is from the Pueblo of Zuni, one of the homeownership celebrations. So this is one of the families, the children of one of the families that was moving into a home that was financed with a 502 direct loan on tribal trust lands at the Pueblo of Zuni in New Mexico. And they are also a participant, an ongoing participant in our self-help program that Andrea will talk about. So it's a poignant picture of the actual folks that are being impacted through home ownership opportunities. And we'll also talk about this. We're not doing enough loans on tribal trust lands. And so part of our want is to partner with tribes, with TDHEs, and of course with Native CDFIs to extend our reach, not only through the pilot process, but really through our traditional delivery mechanisms. To have that two-pronged approach. And I like to remind folks that even though we're not doing enough, it is possible. And it's these kids and the home that they're living in now that reminds us of that possibility. So thanks.
And they're adorable. It makes me want to have little ones around again some days. I do like my sleep now a little more, but our underwriting criteria for the 502 direct loan is very generous in ways, because we do allow for credit waivers. And I know in some, Native communities, we don't have the same credit usage. And so we can work with that. And so I really would encourage you to send people our way, or even better, become a certified packager. We do have a process for certified packaging without intermediaries. We have a process for certified packaging with an intermediary, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means. And then we do have a packaging fee for our 504 loan program, where you don't necessarily go through the packaging process, but you can get a fee of up to $750 for helping to package some of those 504 loans or grants that we'll talk about in a moment. But moving back up to the 502 direct program, which we just talked about, certified packaging really helps increase the awareness and our reach in RD programs. You know, we do still have boots on the ground, as they say, with our area and state offices, but there's never enough people. And as dealing with rural communities, there's always a lot of travel for our staff, you know, trying to get out and do outreach and be there in the communities to bring in new partnerships. And they sometimes get, you know, pretty bogged down at their desk trying to process what they have in front of them. And so we're just really thankful that we can reach out to you guys and encourage you to reach out to us. You know, we're constantly telling our state offices and field offices, go reach out, make connections and friendships with the local tribes. And while they may try to do that to best of ability, we want to say the same to you. Reach out to us, you know, make an appointment with the new housing program director or the new state director, or maybe the one that's been there for a while, or even the local office. You know, Zoom and Teams and phone calls are always available just to stay connected and to really set the groundwork so that when the packages start coming in, we know we've got approved leases. We know we're ready to go with an appraiser, or we know, you know, who are the insurance providers for you in that area. So really building that up first. So once the people come in, they're not waiting. Because I think the thing we hear the most is that, you know, it takes a long time to get through a tribal trust process and get BIA closed. And we want to get all that groundwork done with you first, so that when we have the people, we can get them into homes fast. So certified packaging helps with that a lot, because you're already versed and trained in the program specifics, and you know how to maybe get an applicant ready for the program, or know that this is the best fit for them, and put in a solid application file to us so that the process does go incredibly smooth. You're seeing the numbers up on the screen, and I'm kind of hopping around a little bit, but if you do become a certified packaging body and you do deliver via an intermediary, which we'll talk about again in a minute, there's an up to $17.50 fee that is split somewhat between you and the intermediary. And the intermediary, it's a little different in every area how much the split is, but typically the majority of the funds are going to you as the packaging body. And then if you're a certified packaging body without an intermediary, and there's some rules and requirements about being in that category, you can get up to $1,500. And then, like I said earlier in the very beginning, the 504 program is up to $750 currently for a packaging fee. And so some things to consider. You may already be doing some credit counseling and gathering of the documentations that we need. So why not take the extra step and be able to get at the packaging fees? Let's see. I think that's all I wanted to add there. Ted, anything I'm missing as I'm stumbling through?
Nothing that you're missing, but I'll add that we've tried to figure out ways we can get more tribes and TDHEs and even CDFIs interested in packaging. One of the barriers has been the cost for doing that packaging training. And so I don't have any announcements or any commitments to make on behalf of Kathy or her team, but I think we're open to working with Jackson and Pete and the network to figure out how we can make it more cost effective. If there's a group of native CDFIs that might be interested in that sort of opportunity, and at least exploring what could potentially be provided if that's of interest. Jackson mentioned some deeper dives, so that's something we want to keep on the table and keep some open lines of discussion going with you all.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. That does come up a lot. So the training is provided by 3 organizations. We have Rural Community Assistance Corporation, RCAC, out in the western area of the nation. We have NeighborWorks, and we also have the HAC, the Housing Assistance Council. All 3 of those provide trainings in different areas. And I real recently, obviously in response to the pandemic, and something we had been working on prior to was an online training class. And so I know there's been about 3 of those conducted by RCAC recently, and forgive me for not knowing the HAC and NeighborWorks numbers. They may be close to or having those available as well. And I know that a lot of those I think all three of those organizations also have tribal focused areas. So RCAC has like a tribal college or tribal initiative group that wants to reach out and wants to provide maybe a tribal specific type packaging. I mean, it would still be the 3-day certification course, but maybe they can add in some of their resources for leases or ordinances or those kinds of things. So it has been pretty cost prohibited for some folks to travel to these packaging trainings because A, you've got the travel, right? And it depends where they're at. And then B, you've got the cost of the actual training. So I think the virtual option is going to be great. And I think that, we could definitely connect you with the 3 organizations and, get some price quotes from them or talk with them about, do you have enough people that would come to a training that they could put on for you guys specifically? And I see we have something pop up here, a poll. Would you be interested in a 1 or 2 day USDA training tailored to native CDFIs on the 502 direct loan packaging or the 504 program? I'm going to say yes. I hope you will too. So moving back to my slides here, to become a certified packager, you need to have at least 1 year of affordable housing loans originated and or affordable housing counseling experience, which I think most of you native CDFIs will definitely qualify for that. You'll take the 3-day course and you will pass a test. And then you have 1 year from the date of being added to the certified packaging process to complete the course and pass the test. So there, as we said, maybe a fee before you can charge the full fee, and there is a fee for the class. I'm going to go to the next slide here in a moment and talk about intermediaries, unless there's any questions.
I think we have a question from Janelle, and if you can, Janelle, can you ask a question? Otherwise, I can read it. But I think Janelle has a good question here.
Oh, just in regards to the first outline there, must be employed by qualified employer, tribes, or tribal housing authorities. I was just curious if native CDFIs fit in that category.
I shouldn't speak off the cuff because the packaging process isn't something I've been majorly involved with, but I would think that they would be a qualified organization. And but I can find out and get back to you.
And we have had one CDFI specifically actually was approved as an intermediary tribal packager. And because of some institutional changes at that CDFI, they never actually did any packaging. And so they've been discontinued. That's another opportunity, I think, is not only trying to figure out if there'd be a native organization interested in doing the packaging, but if there's another entity that could commit and to build in the capacity to be an intermediary alongside of the non-tribal intermediaries that are currently in place. There's no reason why that has to happen other than that those non-native intermediaries aren't experts in Indian country. So we have gone down that path in the past. And if there's interest in that, we can have fruitful conversations on what that could look like as well. But there is nothing that was unique about that particular CDFI's organizational structure that I'm aware of. And they were eligible both as a packager and as an intermediary. And they actually did 502s and 504s in their local community packaging prior to that. So.
And Ted, so that CDFI was not a tribally sponsored or CDFI? It was just native.
That was 100% tribally sponsored.
Okay.
And it has, we probably know who I'm talking about, but it has since merged with another CDFI in a nearby state. So it was that merging that we kind of lost focus on the packaging.
Okay.
And we can talk offline more, but Kathy, you were going to add something?
Yeah, I just was going to add, the native CDFIs would be eligible to be an intermediary. With the one that we had, we did make some minor tweaks and exception to the normal requirements, but we were able to work through them and get them approved, although it didn't work out. So yes, we can do that again if needed.
Okay. And just make sure that we answered Janelle's question. So say the CDFI is not tribally affiliated, but is independent native CDFI, they would also be eligible, correct?
believe that's correct. I mean,
Okay.
are they a 306C?
Like they'd be like a
Do we know?
50,
A 501c3?
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah. Okay,
Most likely, I can't see any reason why they wouldn't be. Kathy, I see your.
Yeah, we can make it happen.
that's what I want to hear. Thanks. Cool, thank you.
We're going to start calling her Kathy Makes It Happen Glover. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on and talk about the intermediaries. I think about halfway through here, so have plenty of time for questions. So who are the intermediaries? You can find our intermediary coverage map online and check to see who serves your area. I talked about the folks that give the trainings, but I know that, you know, several of them, if not all three of them, are also intermediaries. And so they really have the full gamut of resources for you and your partners as well. So here on our slide, I would reference or refer you to our rd.usda.gov, which I'm going to navigate to here at the end, and the loan application packagers part of that website has information on trainings. It has tools and resources. It has our tools like our 4A calculation worksheets so that you could, you know, do some quick pre-quals with people in your office to see what they would qualify for under our program. So it's a lot of great resources out there, including the map. And like I said, we'll go ahead and navigate to it at the end so you can see what that website looks like. So this is one of my favorite pictures that Ted uses, and I love the story. So I'll let him tell it first before I go into the slide.
I was just answering a question in the chat. Sorry about that. So this is a picture from St. Regis Mohawk Tribe, the Akwesasne Nation in upstate New York. They've had a fruitful partnership with rural development going back 10 or 15 years. So there's a couple layers of the story, which I could probably talk about for an hour. So I have to figure out how a useful way to say this in 60 seconds. But you have a family that's purchased the home behind them with a 502 direct loan. And our staff has come up with a tradition where everyone that receives a 502 direct loan through the program, they pitch in their own money. This isn't taxpayer money. This is their own money, whether their spouse or they earned it, to buy a red maple tree as part of the moving in process. And the red maple, as I understand, has deep, deep cultural significance at St. Regis Mohawk. And another layer to that story is that much of that forest was denuded upon colonization. So it's really a testament to the type of relationships that have developed there and the healing that our staff wants to make happen through homeownership and through contributing their own dollars. And the last layer of the onion, which links it back to packaging, the tribe did a very clever thing. They hired a rural development retiree on a contract to be their packager. So the person who's packaging their loans at St. Regis knows how to package loans quite well because she did it for us for over 30 years. And our relationship didn't start with St. Regis with homeownership, but we finally got there after a long and hard relationship building and program delivery through other programs. And it took 5 to 10 years to build the trust. And now, like I said, we still don't do enough, even probably at St. Regis, but every year, 1 or 2 502 direct loans we're doing with that tribe on tribal lands in New York, which work a little differently, but it's just a testament to a sort of long, drawn out, intentional relationship building, which is bearing fruit once again for individuals and families. So there's a lot packed into that one picture, and that's as quick as I could explain it. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Ted. I do love the New York partnerships up there. They've been strong for a long time and really something that I hope all the states can work towards. And as you guys reach out to them, I'm sure they'll start building those relationships too. So just one more time, Certified's packaging process really is a benefit to us all. And I hope that we'll be able to work with you guys to get more done in Indian country. As you saw, it's a $750 potential packaging fee. And while that's not a ton of money, I think the benefit to the people you serve is so great to send them our way, even if you can't package them, because the 504 Rehabilitation Loan and Grants Program is really special. It's unlike any other lender product. And so our loan program is a 1% fixed loan for 20 years. At the max loan of $20,000, that's like a $92 a month payment. And we hear all the time, folks don't want to take on another payment. They've just paid off their home. They're in these situations, but it's worth it to have the home that you own last and get the repairs that you need. Now we're running a pilot program in some states that the loan can actually go up to $40,000, because we were hearing that, $20,000 doesn't go a lot, very far. Sometimes that's the roof and that's it. Sometimes in some areas, depending on what you're really getting done and what you need for your home based on weather and stuff in your area. So any state is welcome to request a waiver to use that $40,000. So hopefully some of you are thinking in the back of your mind, oh, I have some applicants that could use that $40,000 right now to repair a home. Loans less than $7,500 are secured by a note only. So you eliminate the need for title and BIA clearance and all of that. And so we can do a lot with 7,500 is sometimes enough for a new water heater or furnace. And there's very few prohibited loan costs. We can pretty much do anything to modernize, put in disability type modifications. Even if they just want new carpet, it's a loan, so they can get that done. Now the grant program is a one-time grant, lifetime award for those that are 62 and older, and having a disability does not qualify you for the grant. It's only the age. And with this program, we can only remove safety and health, or excuse me, we are looking to remove safety and health hazards. And so under this program, we wouldn't give you grant money to buy the new carpet that you wanted. Like I just talked about, this would be for the safety and health. Now, right now, the max grant is $7,500, but we do have a pilot program to take that up to $10,000. And like I said, any state, even if they're not in the pilot, are welcome to use that waiver ability and get their folks more money on the ground. So any questions about our 504 program? Anything you wanted to add there, Ted?
I would just add, this is a great place to start to build those relationships. As you can see in the picture, I don't even know the full story of this picture. It is a tribal property, but it doesn't take that long to put on a new roof or to put in new windows or to put in a handicapped accessible ramp or do an HVAC system. So it happens very quickly in a season's time. We run out of grant money very quickly. So if there is an appetite for a loan, you won't be too surprised, but I always chuckle in sort of a, I don't know, ironic way, because most of the loans we do on tribal trust land just happen to be $7,499. I wonder why that might be. And it's because of that note only limit at $7,500. So those monies are also equally accessible. It's not perfectly easy, but it's one of our easier programs to access and to make a big difference in someone's life who might be living, let's say in Montana, in northern Montana, and is living in a very drafty house. And it might, even if the person doesn't think they can afford the loan, they might be able to pay back the loan just on the energy costs that they're saving from having a tighter envelope on their house. So I'd really encourage folks to consider both programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Ted. Yeah, giving away that trade secret of the 7,499. That's how much the repairs cost. Just kidding. All right, let's talk about the self-help grant and site loan programs. The self-help grant is a grant made to organizations to package loans, not through the packaging process, but it's because they're paid by the grant. They can't get a fee as well. Package groups of families, obtain sites, work with them to provide 65% labor on the homes so that they have what we call our sweat equity when they finally move into the homes. So the grant goes to the organization. About 80% of the grant funds is, salaries and expenses mostly, because that's what they're doing, is they're putting in the work to package the loans to us, get the homeowners out there building. They have a construction supervisor on site. Their weekends are full. And my favorite events are work days on a self-help site. You guys should see me with the nail gun. I'm dangerous, but it's really fun seeing those homes, come up. And this picture, I know the story because I've been here, and this is Pine Ridge, Thunder Valley. And they had a self-help grant, and there was 6 or 7 homes, I think, in this really cool designed subdivision, I guess you could call it. The homes face each other, so they had a community center in the middle, and the way the homes were built, there really wasn't a front door or back door. You had doors to inside all the way around, and then when you walked in, the design was really cool because the way that you would walk in, say from the workday, was a mud room. You didn't walk into the living room. Who wants to walk into the living room with your mud boots on, right? So it was just really awesome to see the design and to be a part of that because of the grant. And the self-help program, like I said, for a number of years, it was, no one can get into it, but that's just not been the case. We've funded new grantees in just about all the 4 regions over the last 4 years. And so it takes a while to get a grant application ready. It is a big lift to get folks to do 65% of the labor on their homes and meet those program requirements. But at the end of the day, it's one of the most rewarding programs, and working with that site loan program, or excuse me, working with the self-help program or not, is the site loan program. And so these loans are at, a pretty standard interest rate. I think we're at a 2.75 as of late. We've been working with folks on terms for these. Now our regulation currently is a 2-year repayment term on these, and it's $100,000 max. But given we have a Kathy Get It Done Glover, we definitely can look at your proposals. I mean, $100,000 isn't a lot to develop a site, and 2 years is not a long time to develop a site. And so the last one we did, I believe, was more in the $500,000 range. And I think we were able to start at 2-year repayment, but modify and do extensions up to like a 5-year repayment to make it a little bit more user-friendly. And like I said, we have $5 million for those that want to build self-help homes through the self-help program. And then we have another $5 million for those that maybe just want to develop the site, and maybe you're going to use a HUD program, maybe you're going to use BASH, maybe you're going to use some conventional products to actually finance the homes later. And that's totally fine, as long as those homes are going to low and very low income applicants. So Ted, did you want to talk a little bit more? Miss Kathy Glover is here in this picture as well when we visited the Thunder Valley project.
Yeah, I was going to mention that's Kathy right in the front next to Roger Glendenning. Kathy is not a short person, but Roger's just very tall and lanky. And Roger's, since many of you have known Roger through the years, he retired. So Kathy now has the position that Roger had when he was pictured in this position, in this picture. I was not here. I participated on a Montana trip that was right in front of the South Dakota trip. Kathy and Roger and our then Chief of Staff, Curtis Anderson, were there. And we brought with an individual from the Office of Management and Budget who had not experienced Indian country. So she got to visit both the Blackfeet Nation and Pine Ridge on that visit, so that she could have that in her experience toolkit as she was making decisions that were impacting us and our customers from the Office of Management and Budget. So really grateful that Roger and Kathy supported that trip and participated on both sides. Kathy, did you want to say anything about that experience? I don't know. It was pretty moving.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. A few years ago, I can't remember when it was. It was our native tour, like Ted said, went to South Dakota and we went to Montana. But yeah, no, it was awesome to see that and to go there. And I want to do it again as soon as we get rid of COVID. I can't do anything about that, but I'd love to come out and visit some of the other projects that you all have going on, and hopefully that we can get some USDA financing into.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. And I just want to make sure I said this correctly. So the site loan program can go all the way up to resale to moderate income families. And I was working with the state of Arkansas the other day, and we saw also that the site loans can be used to be sold to, say, rural renting. So you can't, as a rural renter, you can't get the site loan to develop the land for rural renting, but as a single family type organization, you can get the land ready and then sell, say, a portion of it to someone who's going to do rural renting to moderate, low, or very low income applicants. So there are some little tweaks and twerks and cool things that we can do in site loans within the regulations. So I'm happy to listen to whatever project ideas you have so that we can get this money spent. All right, we're getting close on time. So let me talk about the 533 Housing Preservation Grant Program. I think that might be one of, close to our last slide here. As I said in the beginning, this program is really cool because it's released annually through a NOFA, so a Notice of Funding Availability. And so there may be some differences from year to year on how they score your application or some certain requirement in forms. But basically what you would be applying for is a grant to repair low or very low income residents' homes. And so maybe you have a neighborhood or two where there's 3, 4, 5 homes, all need new roofs, something like that. You can apply if those homeowners are low and very low income and use the grant money to make the repairs. Now, the last year's NOFA did allow for 20% of the total grant to be used in your admin funds. There wasn't a requirement for matching. However, there was a higher scoring ability if you had some extra money in the pie too as well. But that NOFA should be coming out here in April, May. I don't want to speak out of turn for the multifamily housing division, but I really would love, tribal entities historically have scored higher in these NOFA awards. And like I said, with 15.9 million, why not take a stab at getting some of that money that you can, then reuse on the low and very low income folks. And I just think that's amazing because, grant funds for our 504 program, you must be very low, but here in housing preservation grants, you can use it for the low. So any questions about 533, or Ted, you want to talk about this photo a little bit before I move on?
It's kind of a misnomer. I guess I could have people guess where it is. Didn't see if anyone joined from Siston, but it's Siston-Wahpeton Lake Traverse Reservation in South Dakota. This is actually a multifamily housing property that we financed for construction, so it's not a 533 grant. But I took the picture, so I don't need to pay myself for it, and it's looking towards where I'm from. So this is looking east towards Minnesota. I don't know if folks know right where Siston-Wahpeton sits, but it's right at the border of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. So I like to say that it shows a great housing project, and then it shows the promised land for me back behind it, where my ancestors, who are not native, are from.
That's terrific.
Before we move on, I think there are a couple of questions I wanted to flag. I think there's one on the previous slide from Tanya Plummer. And Tanya, do you want to come off mute and ask the question?
Hi, Jackson. Hi, everyone. Sure. What was my initial question? I was trying to go back to.
It was about low and low income folks.
Oh, yeah, for the site loans and for the group projects. Is that low and very low income requirement tied to the individual initial borrowers or to the property perpetually?
The initial borrowers. There's
Okay.
no, like you're talking about a resale restriction that would last for the life of the.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Just for the
Okay.
first.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. And then could a native CDFI be an eligible applicant for the housing preservation grant, kind of applying similar mindset to the packaging?
I think that I think we could yes. I shouldn't speak for multifamily.
We can make it happen.
We can make it happen. Make it happen.
I thought about this a little bit, and I think most of the time it's a nonprofit or a housing authority that actually is doing the work. So if you had a team that was part of your mission, was repairing homes, I think that would work. And or I don't know if you're able to contract for the folks, but it might be something where you could actually partner with the TDHE as well. But most of the grants, all the ones that I'm aware of in Indian country, are folks that not only get the money, but make the repairs organizationally with their staff as well. So.
Thank you, Ted. Yeah, like I said, it's a multifamily housing program, but I'm starting to learn about it because we're going to be helping them out here in the future, and we want to start marketing it. So I will get my story straight and also get back to Jackson with that. That's a good Q&A to follow up with. So 533 for NCDFIs. Okay, I will follow with multifamily housing and get this group back a message on that one.
Jackson, you had a question that someone was asking too. I thought we could answer that one
Yeah.
verbally because it's kind of complex.
Yeah, so the question was, can an individual who works as a sole proprietor qualify as a packager?
Yeah, so you have a sole proprietorship as a business and you want to become a packager.
So the way I would think about that is kind of like the St. Regis model that I mentioned, and maybe that spawned the question. But so that in that instance, the Tribal Housing Authority, the TDHE, contracts a former rural development employee. So technically, that's a contract employer of the employee of the TDHE. But a similar relationship could be available, I think, to anyone who was trained in packaging, where they would provide the packaging services. I will emphasize that at St. Regis, it's not the intermediary process. It's the other process on Andrea's slide where you get a lower fee. And sort of the crafty thing, what they've done is that the person that they've contracted with not only knows RD's programs because they work for rural development, they also have a full pension from rural development. So they can, the margin for what they need to pay their packager is smaller because they're receiving their retirement income as well. Not to say that's replicable, but the packager can be an individual, but I think they're going to have to be employed by an entity. That's how I would sort of approach it.
Ted, that's exactly right. I was going to say, just, if you're a sole proprietor out there on your own, you wouldn't be eligible for the certified packaging process. But if you are employed by one of the qualified employers, then yes, you could be. So you could have that contract relationship or however you want to do it. But just an individual out there packaging under the certified packaging process, no, that wouldn't be eligible. You'd have to be associated with an entity that is eligible to participate in the packaging program.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, so I was to my last slide, and this is actually just a different view of these homes. So you can kind of see, right, Ted? These are the same. So there's several entry doors on the way around, and the carport, I guess, is kind of back here, but they all kind of face in this huge circle, and it was just a really cool design that I enjoyed.
And I love the signs there in Lakota, obviously. And I don't know what the second word is, but Tatanka, many of you probably recognize as the Lakota word for bison. So it's named a named place with Lakota street signs too, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. We might have another question came in. But hopefully you're seeing our www.rd.usda.gov up now. And there's a couple different tabs I could tell you about. The About RD tab, if you go to offices and your state offices, you can find your state. And so I'll pick on Alabama today. And then there's more Alabama context down here. So you can kind of figure out what the structure is as far as where they serve. Some of them will have on here which counties, or there we go, counties served. So you can kind of drill down and find your go-to in your area. Under our programs and services, moving along to the right, you can get to our single family housing programs and scroll down to any of the loan programs that you're interested in, but we'll go direct and I'll show you where to get to the packaging site. Oh, did I hit the wrong button? Even I can always navigate perfectly.
As you're doing that, Andrea, this, I guess, for Kathy or Brooke, maybe, how long does it usually take for a site loan application to be approved? I know we don't do that many, but is that like a 3-month process or so, would you say, on average?
That's go ahead.
Yeah, like you said, we don't get that many, but it can be a fairly quick process. I mean, I don't think it would take 3 months if all of the information that we need is provided. So, we've seen some come in at the very end of the fiscal year with, like within 30 days and be able to get them approved. So it just depends on how complete the applications are.
I was going to ask Pamela. I don't know Pamela, but Pamela Ranslam. I don't know if you can. Are you a CDFI? I see you've been awarded 3 HPGs. Maybe you could either put in the chat how you're organized, or if you want to come off
Actually,
mute.
so originally I'm under a CDFI now. I'm the Homeownership Program Manager, but originally I worked for, up until January of this year, I worked for the Tribal Housing Department. And so we applied for our first HPG back in 2015 through the state of Oregon, and we just received our third one. They're 2-year grants. We just received our third one in 2020, and we've had immense success with the program. It does serve very low and low income households. And we did target elders at the beginning. Now this year it's open to any homeowner. So we're focusing on homeowners. And in most cases, we're really focusing on those individuals who had mutual help homes that are needing assistance. And so it's a great program, and we do a match program. So we do provide additional funding through tribal resources. And then I usually was the person who took the applications, and then we work directly with our maintenance manager, and he would do all the assessments of the homes and review what needed to be done. Homeowners usually provided maybe some insight of what they would look or what they wanted. But we also focused on certain areas. Like we always made sure we were pumping their septic systems. We were looking at their roofs, their electrical, their heating units, and maybe then looking at other areas of trying to make the house safer, like completing ADA bathrooms for many of the elders. And then because of how we did it, then we directly contracted with individuals to go out and make those repairs. And so then we were hiring contractors on behalf of the homeowners, that they would go out and complete the repairs. And then our maintenance manager would go then work on getting those inspected and making sure that all of the requirements that we were asking for were done.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I wanted to hear your perspective. I think my least favorite thing about the program is how small it is nationwide, which tends to lead towards smaller grants. But when they can be leveraged, you're able to repair more homes than you would without the grant. So was that your experience too, Pamela? Is it pretty small, or?
Yeah, we've gotten, I think the last 2 times we got 50,000, and the year before, the very first one we got was like just over 30,000. And so we were trying to help as many tribal members as possible. However, when you start having to replace roofs, that really starts eating up your budget, and you're looking at between $10,000 and $15,000. So, but we do try to help as many as we can. And in some cases, we have kicked in additional funds from our own tribal government just to help that out. So we might provide $10,000 worth of repairs where USDA is providing 5, and then we're putting in another 5.
And this is Kathy. I just want to add, keep in mind, I mean, I did the HPG program a long time ago, early on in my career, but keep in mind, you can also pair that with some of our other programs, like our 504 grant program. If you have an elderly person, they could possibly qualify for a grant. So there's no prohibition from using HPG funds and 504 grant or 504 loan funds in the same project. I've seen it happen. So just keep that in mind, that you know, there are some other funding sources that we have that you may be able to use in those homes if they qualify, you know, under the income limit for the 504 program.
Thank you. Yes, always use more. And thank you for sharing that, Pamela. It's really great to hear how it's working on the ground for you. And I'm really close to Oregon, so maybe once the pandemic's over, I can come visit the sites. So here is the direct loan application packager site that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. I know we're at our hour, so I won't keep us long, but I wanted to show you that. And then also the eligibility site, eligibility.sc.egov.usda.gov, but it's linked to this website that I was just showing you as well. Our handbook resources are also on here. So anything you want to know about what qualifies for our program, it's in our handbook, 3550-1. in our chapters here. And on the eligibility site, you can use our maps and find income limits. So let's go single family housing direct first. And then I will go to property eligibility. I will accept my disclaimer. And here you can put in any property address and it'll tell you if it's eligible or not eligible, or you can use the Zoom function to go right in and find out Wichita, Kansas is unfortunately not eligible, but outside these limits, these parameters is. And then for the income limits, there's two ways. You can do a self-assessment, which is a couple steps where applicants would enter their information and it would pop back out. But the income limit map, and there's one for the guaranteed program and one here for our direct program, is probably the easier way to drill down. So I'm here in Washington. Oh, it's not quite open yet. Uh-oh. There we go. Oops, I clicked too soon. So here in Washington, I find the county that I'm in, and I find that the very low income is banded at 39,000 all the way through a 4-person, and at 51.5 all the way through an 8-person. So those are the last couple of things I wanted to share, and I want to thank the group again so much for letting us speak today and attending. And I look forward to hearing from you and making you all packages in the future, or what have you to help your specific areas.
Jackson, I was going to add just something. I mean, you can use the online tools. They're a great way for folks to anonymously sort of figure out if a property or if they're income eligible. You don't have to put your name or anything that self-identifies you. So that's nice. And you can always just call our staff. They also know where the eligible areas are. So if you don't want to play and fiddle with the technology, you can always just call your local office. They'll tell you where the eligibility lines are around maybe a non-rural town. And they also can let you know what the eligibility for income eligibility requirements are for a given county. So both ways are open, whatever folks are most comfortable with. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Andrea. And thank you, Kathy, for joining us. And thanks to the NCN members. We will send out the slides to the folks that registered, and we'll also look forward to keeping in touch with you. And want to see if we have a couple board members on. Cindy Logston, I think Natalie, Charlie. Cindy, want to say any words and sign us out? Cindy's out in Oklahoma right now, right in the middle of the snowstorm. So hopefully.
Right in the middle of it. Yeah, no, just thank you for sharing that. That was very helpful. I think the point that training may be available as a group is really something that's intriguing because I want to learn more. I want to know more. So thanks so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Cindy. And you underscore that point. We do want to continue this and do a deeper dive in an area with the USDA. So if you're interested in that, you're an NCN member, shoot me an email and I'll drop it in the chat. But we look forward to doing that. So, all right.
And Jackson, I'm going to send you one final PowerPoint just with these eligibility sites that I went over. It wasn't in that one I sent you, so I'll send one more before you send it out to the group.
Perfect.
Final. Thank you guys so much.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks, Andrea. Good job.